crumbling home of the prestigious National Ballet, can barely contain all this intense, youthful exuberance. This is Havana's Grand Theatre, far less grand than it once was. And these are the grandchildren of the Cuban Revolution. They're passionate, extremely talented, and they want to be the very best dancers they can possibly be. But do they dare to dream beyond the strict confines of their small island home?
Un bailarín famoso, para mí, ¿qué significa? Lo pudiera conocer otras personas del mundo, ¿no? ¿Por qué no?
Y en mi plano personal, de verdad que tengo como una meta, ser una buena bailarina, no solo aquí en Cuba, sino en otros países también.
Kaisa and Henry are the star dancers at Cuba's Spanish Ballet School. Kaisa is just 17. She's studied classical ballet since she was 4. She knows, given the chance, the world could be her stage. But like almost everyone in Cuba, she has to be patient, very patient.
Tienes que pensar las cosas en grande, aunque no se van a resolver de un día para otro, pero sí se pueden resolver poco a poco y hay que ser optimista porque algún día va a mejorar, van a mejorar las cosas.
But standing still doesn't come easy to those born to move.
Creo que me falta mucho por aprender. Quiero ser un buen bailarín.
Since before they were born, Cuba has been on the verge of a change that never seems to come. The tyranny of a transition that's always just out of reach. Is it possible that change really is in the wind? And this will be the Cuban generation that finally steps into a wider world. In the 21st century, Cuba is an increasingly strange anachronism, one of the last outposts of the old Cold War standoff. There is obviously incredible potential here, but after half a century of US embargo and socialist doctrine, the economy is in ruins. Young people are desperate for change, but the old revolutionaries cling to the political battles of the 20th century. And the central characters in all this remain Fidel Castro and his brother Raúl. Before Fidel Castro vacuum-sealed Cuba, this was arguably more North American than any other country outside the United States. But even now, all these years on, the most anti-American neighbour can't shake the great American pastime. Baseball is a national obsession. And just like the dancers of the Spanish ballet, the talent runs deep.
Sí, nosotros tenemos un sistema bastante organizado de las EI, de ESPA, en este caso la Serie Nacional, Liga de Desarrollo. Hay bastante oportunidad para que los muchachos puedan jugar béisbol.
Scouts in the US look longingly at what they describe as perhaps the greatest pool of entrapped sporting talent in the world. Here, Norberto González Miranda is the most valuable player of all. He's the best pitcher in the Cuban League, a superstar without the pay packet. He knows he could make tens of millions in the US, but dismisses it with an easy shrug.
No, en este caso no me interesa, ya que nuestro país, nuestro sistema nos garantiza casi todo.
Here at the Cienfuegos Stadium, they may all be baseball tragics, die-hard fans of America's pastime, but they're by no means fans of the American dream. There's a reticence, a deep suspicion of precisely what a more open Cuba may bring. But from the balconies of old Havana, Cuba doesn't look like a country about to move forward. passion and sensuality are all part of the Cuban soul. And that spirit continues to define and sustain the people. But the country itself is falling apart. Few, if anyone, can recall a major construction site. While many of communism's old outposts are now smothered in cranes and reverberating to the jackhammers, nothing has been built here for decades, and little has been maintained or repaired. Not so the cars. Necessity demands they're patched up. And while the eyes of a classic car enthusiast might boggle, these old clunkers from a bygone era of carburettors and drum brakes are the most visible reminder of the political and economic stagnation in Cuba. Held together with a combination of ingenuity and improvisation. Old Havana was once one of the most beautiful cities in the Caribbean. Now it's in a state of almost melancholic decay.
Old Havana was very beautiful, wonderful buildings, great architecture, but 52 years nothing has been constructed or rehabilitated. The architecture has been lost. If you look to the right or the left, you find that people are living in very bad shape, in very bad conditions as usual, because most of the buildings in Cuba are crumbling and there is a great problem of housing.
Few know more about just how intractable the Castro regime can be than Oscar Chepe and Miriam Lieva. This Havana couple have been a part of Castro's Cuba from the first tremors of revolution. Oscar came out of the jungles fighting alongside Fidel.